I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is a teenage tragedy turned double murder. An unhinged teenage girl takes the life of her boyfriend and his friend. The murder scene was gruesome and the carnage absolutely heartbreaking. Here's the story. Mackenzie Shirilla was 17 years old, living her teenaged life in Strongsville, Ohio. She was dating a boy named Dominic Russo. But like many young couples, they had their issues and things were not going well. In fact, Mackenzie had made some violent threats. One of those threats involved purposely crashing her car with Dominic in it to end their relationship. A threat that may seem extreme, done just to get some attention, but unfortunately, Mackenzie carried out that threat. One night, Dominic and Mackenzie were in her car with another friend named Davion Flanagan. Then, in a fit of anger and rage, Mackenzie put her foot on the gas pedal all the way down. The car reached 100 miles per hour when it struck a brick wall. The accident was devastating. It was fatal for Dominic and Davion, but Mackenzie survived. She was arrested, she was charged with murder, and she was convicted, sentenced to 2 life terms to run concurrently. Mackenzie will be eligible for parole in just 15 years. Meanwhile, the heartbroken families of Dominic and Davion continue to mourn. This story is extremely heartbreaking. Anytime you have a case where the victims are so young and the crime so extremely senseless, your heart breaks. Those kids are gone, those families are broken, those parents are shattered, absolutely shattered. Well, in this case, there was a bench trial, a trial in front of a judge who found her guilty, and then the sentencing. And recently, what has been released is the body camera video of Mackenzie Shirilla being arrested. Now, the car was going 100 miles an hour when it hit that brick wall. 2 people died. She was obviously hurt, but survived, but went to the hospital. So she's leaving the hospital and getting arrested. I want to show you some of that body cam video.
Where is she? Right back there, pal. Hi, Mackenzie. Step out for me. I'm Detective Jesus. I'm the one who's been investigating the crash. You're under arrest for aggravated murder ×2, okay? Nobody's gonna ask you any questions. Nobody's gonna bother you. Can I have your key, please?
Could you please be careful taking this one off so it doesn't break the bracelet, please?
You got it. You got it.
Do you want my cuffs?
No.
Thank you.
You got it. Okay, just keep your hands right here. You're not gonna tighten these, okay? We don't want to hurt you. You're gonna watch your head going in.
Sorry. Help me get my foot out. Sorry. It's just like.
Black mat. Straight forward. Yep. Until that door. Step on that yellow line and just face the wall.
Okay, Mackenzie, I'm gonna take your handcuffs off. I need like all the jewelry and everything to come off, okay?
I can't wear any of it.
No, I need you to take it off while you're in jail right now.
I can't wear these.
Now, unfortunately, everything's gonna have to come off right now once we know when the detective comes back and we know for sure what's going on. Everything's going to be bagged up here. It's not going anywhere.
Sorry, this is just like one of those which is really hard to get off.
That's fine. Take your time.
What are the green, are those extensions, clips? You're gonna need to
I
take
can't
those
take
out.
them out. They're like in my, they're like in.
Okay.
Unless you have pliers, we can get them out.
Now, a big part of this story in this case and what got prosecutors angry and the family members angry was Mackenzie Shirilla's reaction to all of this, right? So now for the first time, we're seeing her at the time of arrest, and it brings us to the first question in our investigation, which is about this defendant. Did Mackenzie Shirilla demonstrate any remorse? And we'll begin here with the arrest. This is the moment that she's being arrested for taking the lives of two of her so-called friends, right? Joining me to help us through all this, author and an expert in body language and human behavior, Susan Constantine, and a clinical psychologist who's evaluated nearly 100 murderers, including the Oxford High School shooter. Dr. Colin King is with us. Great to have you both here. Susan, I'll begin with you. In this video that we saw, what did you notice? What did you take away from it?
Well, one of the things that you mentioned was her, did she show genuine remorse? And so what I'm listening to is her vocal tone, her pace, and her rhythm of what she's saying. And it's not tied to any specific thing that she heard that the two had passed away. Her tone of her voice is very fractured, which is really more about victimy and also more self than it is other. And then the other thing is that we're looking at, of course, is all of the bracelets, right? Everybody's talking about the bracelets. So what I'm taking from that is that each one of those bracelets have some sort of significance to it, whether it be some sort of spiritual connection or whether there are all these friendship bracelets. So the fact that she's so centered on that is discombobulating because it doesn't really fit with the context of what's really happening. So she's kind of disassociating from it, but I think that we're seeing a lot of self-pity.
Okay, yeah, and we have more to show everyone, and I want Susan and Dr. Colin King to see this as well. Here's Mackenzie Shirilla as a convicted killer. So this is after her trial, but at her sentencing when she has an opportunity to speak. Let's take a look.
The families of Dom and Davia, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davia. We were all friends, and Dom was my soulmate. I wish I could take all your pain away, and I'm so sorry. And to my family, thank you for the support and all the love you guys give. Thank you for fighting with me. I love you all so much. Sorry, I'm done. Thank you, guys.
Now, at this point, she's 19 years old. When this happened, she was 17. Dr. Colin King, are you seeing any demonstration of remorse in what we've seen so far?
Thanks for having me on, Vinny. And just because I'm a brain guy, I work in the field of traumatic brain injuries. I've got to at least address the teenage brain before I directly answer your question.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry?
Absolutely.
Yes. The teenage brain is not fully, and I'm not making any excuses for Mackenzie. The teenage brain is not fully developed until about age 23, 24. Mm-hmm. So what you're watching, believe it or not, is an immature teenage brain that is more concerned about the bracelet than the fact that she just caused the demise of two human beings. You would expect her to be convulsing and weeping and wailing at the time of the arrest. As you noticed, when the officers attempted to cuff or to remove their cuff, she wanted them to be very careful so that they did not break her precious bracelet. This is indeed infuriating and confusing, and it makes people angry. But when you understand the teenage brain, that the parts of the brain that are responsible for remorse, the amygdala, and for judgment, the prefrontal cortex, those two parts are not fully developed. So because remorse is not evident doesn't mean that the person is not sorry. They just have not reached the stage to fully express remorses yet. And not every teenager is like that. But in this case, I see that in Mackenzie.
I want to take a listen to the prosecutor and then get more analysis from Susan. The prosecutor here talking about what she was doing before the trial and after the double murder.
These are in Halloween of last year, so these would be post-crash, just before she was charged in November.
Okay, so Susan, give us your analysis, both of her in court, and then we see her, she's on TikTok. She's on TikTok after the crash.
You know what, she's doing what every other teenager is doing, right? They get on TikTok and they start posing around. They give you the posing smile and all the girly stuff that they're doing to get attention and look sexy. But the problem is this is post, right? This is after this has already happened. The fact that she's able to let that go, it kind of reminds me of our CA, you know what I'm talking about, who was out there partying, having a great time, and there was actually no emotion whatsoever. In stark contrast to what we see inside that courtroom, where she seems to be highly attentive, seeing what's going on, and we don't really have that clip in front of us, but there are moments that she does show emotion. The thing is that what I'm hearing more in her voice, and even in the last one, is really more the whininess. And you do see that, just like this psychiatrist has said, is that you do see that with kids. A lot of younger kids are very, very whiny, and that's how they get attention.
All right, big thank you to Susan Constantine. Always great to see you. Dr. Colin King's going to stay with us. Coming up next, what was her relationship with the victims?
Damon was not just a big brother to me, but a role model in many ways. I hate the fact that he has gone because someone decided to take his life.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Cimentelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cimentelli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The celebrity stylist murder trial. Coverage begins following jury selection on Court TV.
Damon was not just a big brother to me, but a role model in many ways. He was the person I trusted the most because he made me feel safe. He taught me the importance of cherishing each moment and enjoying life. The memories we have are strong, but losing him has shown me the value of life. Here's how God works in ways you can't understand, but is worth it in the end. I don't want this pain for anyone else. I don't want people to have to go through this. As an 18-year-old, I hate the fact that he has gone because someone decided to take his life. I would like you to give Mackenzie the longest possible sentence. I've known her for about 3 years, and as she's always taken the easy way out. You shouldn't be able to take the easy way out when it comes to murder. It's completely unfair that no matter what sentence you give her, she will be eligible for parole, while my brother will be gone forever.
No one can imagine the pain of losing a child unless they have lost one themselves. The pain is forevermore. Time does not heal this wound. Mackenzie, going to prison because you did this. Be thankful that you're still alive and have a future, whatever that may be. Dom and Davion were robbed of their futures.
Brutal, absolutely brutal. Some of the victim impact statements from the sentencing of Mackenzie Shirilla for the murder of her boyfriend and their friend. These are high school kids, teenagers, right? One's her boyfriend, and they're together, but they have issues like a lot of young couples do, right? Older couples do also, but when you're young, stuff like that happens. So this brings us to the next question in our investigation, because she murdered both of them. So, what was her relationship with the victims? How can we understand that relationship? If she takes the car, goes 100 miles per hour into a brick wall, knowing, you know what's going to happen when you do that. Joining us, criminal defense attorney in Ohio, Don Malarsic, and still with us, clinical psychologist, Dr. Colin King. Dr. King, I'd like to start with you on teenage relationships. Boyfriend, girlfriend, how complicated and how does it end up where we ended up here?
Turbulent, immature, crazy. You could pick any one of those and apply to teenage relationships, right? Because they're going through that process of maturation, of maturing. You know, I looked at the video, and she's driving the car, Vinnie, at 100 miles an hour into the wall. How does she know that she's going to make it and the others are not going to make it? She didn't. And that's the crazy part of the teenage brain, just behaving in very irrational ways. And, you know, and again, and taking their lives of those two, her boyfriend and his friend. So yes, teenage relationships are very complicated, sometimes irrational, and a lot of times don't make sense to us adults. And, you know, even we, as you quite rightly said, ourselves as adults, we have problems with relationship, but we don't drive our cars into a wall. We just don't. At least some of us don't.
Now, Don, I want you to take a listen to Mackenzie's mom, who addressed the court and was talking about this relationship. And let's listen closely to what the judge's response is to all of that. Let's watch.
I just want to say, am I allowed to address them at all? Sure. I just want to say to the families that I'm broken, sad, and lost, and my heart hurts for everyone, okay? Davion was her new friend, and Dom was the love of her life, and he was part of our family, okay? I'm just so sorry that this happened, and we're heartbroken, okay? And then, Your Honor, this was a terrible, tragic nightmare accident to have happened that she has no memory of, and she will never emotionally or physically recover from it. She almost died too, and we're asking that you please not run the sentence as consecutive. He was family, and we all loved each other. I'm asking you for leniency because this was a tragic accident that she does not remember. And Davion, he's a new friend. I'm so sorry. No. God, no, not at all. They all loved each other. They all spent every day together. You know what I mean? I don't know too much for him. Sorry?
Isn't that part of the problem, that they all trusted each other? Isn't that part of it?
It's not a problem at all. It was wonderful.
How they all ended up in the car together and two ended up together.
I understand what it looks like. I'm saying that it was a tragic accident. She would never.
So, Don, your thoughts about the way the mother's describing the relationship and the way all of this played out. The judges say, listen, the fact that they trusted her is an aggravating factor here.
Yeah, you know, Vinnie, I mean, I agree with the judge. I think Mom was in a really, really tough position. I've been doing this for 31 years, and the honest answer is moms make really, really bad witnesses. And this mom was in a horrible position where she's got to go up there and try to string together some words that might influence this judge to show some mercy. And you can see her kind of fumbling for her words, fumbling with the emotion. It had to be an incredibly difficult thing to do to get up there. And we're trying to make sense out of these senseless, right? I think Dr. King is absolutely right. These are teenagers. I mean, my God, I've got 3 teenagers. I've represented hundreds of them, and they do dumb stuff. You know, they don't understand and appreciate the sanctity of life. They haven't held a child. They haven't birthed a child. They think that they're invincible. So we're trying to make sense of this. And here we have a mom who's doing the best that she can to plead literally for her daughter's life, and she's struggling. And the judge is rightly pointing out some of the inconsistencies and some of the things that Mom's saying that really just don't add up.
Dr. King, another part of this is that prosecutors said that she had made threats during the course of the relationship, including one similar to what happened here. Yet, Dominic still trusted her enough to get in the car with her behind the wheel. What does that reveal to us?
You know, it's not uncommon for teenagers to throw temper tantrums. You know, I work with teenagers, and sometimes the things they say, I have to do a double take. Like, did you really say that? Do you really mean that? You know, I have 2 kids myself, and, you know, when they were teenagers, some of the things they said were just crazy things. And I'm so glad that they did not follow through. In this instance, it sounds like Mackenzie had some real mental health issues, lack of emotional control. Obviously, her prefrontal cortex was not fully developed, and unfortunately, she followed through on the promise. I think it's tragic that her friends trusted her, entered the car with her, and sadly, she took their lives.
Yeah, trusted her behind the wheel. All right, Don and Dr. King are going to stay with us. When we come back, a real big question in all of this. Why did she do it?
For the gold.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the teenaged double murder. 2 boys' lives taken by an unhinged teenage girl, full of anger. Here's the story. 17-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla was in a tumultuous relationship with her boyfriend, Dominic Russo. Mackenzie would often threaten Dominic with violence. One of those threats then came true. Mackenzie was driving her car with Dominic and their friend Davion Flanagan. She hit the gas pedal and didn't take her foot off as the car continued to accelerate to 100 miles per hour. It was still accelerating when it smashed into a brick wall, killing Dominic and Davion. Mackenzie survived but was arrested when she left the hospital. She was convicted of 2 counts of murder for what she did, but amazingly will be eligible for parole in just 15 years. Now, you just saw the video of this. There is audio that goes along with that video, and I'm going to play it for you in just a moment. But first, I wanted to warn you, knowing what happened here, knowing who's in that car, knowing the pain associated with this moment, I want to give you an opportunity, if you don't want to hear it, to turn down the volume. It's only going to last about 15 seconds. But to fully understand what this double murderer did that night, I'm going to play the video with the audio so we understand, like the judge who heard this case, there was no jury, it was the judge, like the judge heard the evidence in this case. Let's take a look and a listen. And like that, Dominic is gone, Davion is gone, and the person responsible is in prison. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. It's an important one. Why did she do it? Why did she do it? Look at the results of that crash. First of all, it's a miracle that anyone survived. But it always turns out that way, right? It's always the driver. Usually they're drunk. What was going on here? Why did she do it? Joining me, retired judge and prosecutor in the Ohio County where this case takes place. Judicial fellow at the National Judicial College and co-host of the NPR podcast, Next Witness Please. Judge Gail Byers is with us, and clinical psychologist who's evaluated nearly 100 murderers, Dr. Colin King. This is a tough question, right? This is a difficult question. I want to put up a little more information for you, so we have a full slate of things going on here. Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. I know the judge knows this prosecutor's office very well. This is from their press release, so this is some of the results of their investigation as well. Further investigation of the Toyota's event data recorder, also known as the black box, revealed that Shirilla had her right foot pressed down on the acceleration pedal to its full extent, and the service brake pedal was never applied before the impact. Shirilla's vehicle had no defects that contributed to the crash. Psilocybin mushrooms and a digital scale were also located on Shirilla. My guess is these are not like portobellos. These are different types of mushrooms. So we have a little further information here. The other thing that's my understanding here, Judge, is that at the time of impact, the car was still accelerating. There was no moment where she slowed down. There was no moment where she attempted to brake. And then when they went through the wreckage, apparently whatever she had on her foot was still on the gas pedal. What are your thoughts here tonight, Judge, about why this 17-year-old would do this?
So, Vinnie, when I think about a case like this, it just reminds me, not just as a former judge, but as a recovering prosecutor, that motive is one of those things that we may never truly know or understand. However, we get a lot of tidbits by assessing the evidence here. And so if you think about this, you have a young, immature, perhaps even, hormonally emotional young lady behind the wheel of a car who's clearly erratic. It seems also there may have been some illegal drug play here. And so to try to suggest that there was some logic going into this, there may very well have been. But I think the judge here may have been assessing intent. And the why may be attributable to a lot of things. And I would even venture to say that the why is more so directed at the boyfriend than even the passenger that was in the vehicle, who it seems from all accounts that this was just an unfortunate circumstance of him being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But the why for all of this seems to point directly to the boyfriend, the nature of the relationship, the immaturity of the individuals, the use of drugs, getting behind the wheel of the car, and also demonstrating power. Being behind the wheel of a car where you have others trapped in it with no escape and no ability to control it means that you are in total, complete power and control of the situation. And for someone that immature, that lacking in responsibility and in a volatile relationship, presumably, that was a recipe for exactly what we saw. You could hear the vehicle speed amping up as it got closer and closer and closer to that camera. And the idea that the car had no defects, that it was accelerated to its highest extent, that there was no effort to apply or use the emergency brakes, and that there were drugs involved is really just, again, this is the outcome that unfortunately one could expect under all of those circumstances. So the why? You had all of those things at play all at once.
Dr. King, what are your thoughts? We've been trying to get inside the mind of a 17-year-old girl who's in a somewhat volatile relationship. I don't know how extreme it was. I don't know if there was jealousy involved, or that's usually what it is in these types of cases. But what are your thoughts about why this happened?
Sure. I'm not sure if I read this somewhere, Vinny, or if I just made it up while I was dreaming or something. But I believe that their teenage brain is like a loaded gun, and there are several things that pull their trigger, right? Drugs could be one of them. Emotions could be one of them. And as the retired judge quite rightly said, power and control could be another variable. There's so many variables that are responsible. But at the end of the day, this driver clearly felt that she needed to make a point. Okay, she needed to punish her boyfriend, didn't even consider that in trying to punish him, she may just kill herself. She did, perhaps, maybe she was trying to kill herself too, or maybe she didn't even think about it. But in the spur of the moment, this word impetuosity comes to mind. Brashness, no thinking, poor judgment. It's a reason why rental car companies do not like to rent cars to teenagers, not because teenagers are bad. They're inherently good. I believe they're just immature and haven't gained the experience like adults. And that causes them just to do crazy things.
Dr. King, one other thing that I want to address before we lose you. Throughout this trial, she's claiming she doesn't remember anything that happened. Is that possible that she couldn't remember what happened because of the trauma of the crash? Could she herself block it out, or is it unlikely that she actually doesn't remember anything?
So when you think about it, the car is traveling at 100 miles an hour. Her brain is also traveling at 100 miles an hour. You want to keep that in perspective, and the brain is very vulnerable. I have treated clients and patients before who have developed amnesia as a result of extreme brain trauma. It is a possibility. In this case, not knowing all of the facts, I don't think so. And even if it is, I think it's a temporary blackout. I can't see her completely forgetting the relationship that she had, the fact that 2 humans died. When she read her statement, she expressed remorse about the incident. So I don't know how she or someone can say that she has no memory of the event. I think it's a little far-fetched.
Dr. Colin King, always great to have your perspective. Thank you so much. Judge Byers is going to stay with us. Still to come, was justice served?
Every decision-making of the defendant. She morphs from a responsible driver to literal hell on wheels.
Did you know Scripps News is streaming for free on all your favorite streaming services?
That is something that is very important.
Search for Scripps News on your smart TV to find our channel.
This is amazing stuff here.
Once you get the app, get full free access to breaking news.
All that excitement culminates today.
Live events.
And you can really kind of feel the energy.
And the award-winning journalism you expect from Scripps News.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Start streaming Scripps News today.
Every decision-making of the defendant. She morphs from a responsible driver to literal hell on wheels as she makes her way down the street. Mackenzie alone made the decision to drive the car, to drive an obscure route, a route she visited a few days before, and a route not routinely taken by her. Mackenzie alone chose the time to make the drive, early in the morning.
Love you, baby.
Love you.
That was Mackenzie Shirilla being escorted out of the courtroom after the judge's verdict of guilty for the murders of her boyfriend and her friend, their friend, who was in the car, that she drove 100 miles an hour on purpose into a brick wall. So that was the verdict. Then the sentence. And this is where things get a little more or a lot more controversial. Here's the judge handing down the sentence for Mackenzie Shirilla for murdering 2 teenagers, 2 people, 2 of her so-called friends.
The difficulty for sentencing today, honestly, is whether or not I believe you should get consecutive sentences. I'm troubled that should I give you a concurrent sentence, that people will believe that somehow I'm being disrespectful. to one of the victims. And on the other hand, I have to weigh the punishment. There's a very good likelihood because he will spend the rest of your life in prison. That won't be up to me. That will be up to the parole board, and that will be up to you to agree to say. I understand that the pain in this room wants me to impose the harshest sentence, but I don't believe that would be the appropriate sentence because I do believe that Mackenzie will not be out of 15 years. So she's sentenced on count 2, the murder of Davion Flanagan, 15 years to life. She's sentenced on count 1, the murder of Dominic Russo, 15 years to life, to be served concurrent to each other with credit for time served.
Concurrent. Both at the same time. Instead of, 15 to life, 15 to life, it's just one 15 to life for 2 murders. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Was justice served? She was 17 when she did it, 19 when she was convicted. Still with us, Judge Gail Byers, and joining us, criminal defense attorney in Ohio, Don Malarsic is with us. All right, Judge, I'll begin with you. It's a simple question, but it's not so simple. Was justice served here?
Oh, Vinnie, this is everything but simple. For judges that have to balance all the things that were balanced here, here's the bottom line. At the end of the day, there are no winners. For the 2 victims who lost their lives, their families, even after 15 years, will forever be sentenced to visiting them at their final resting place. And so even if Mackenzie makes it through her 15 years incarceration, and even if she's not granted parole at the first request and therefore serves an additional short period of time to add to that 15 years, let's say 5 years, right? So she does 20 years. She still, if she survives her term of incarceration, because that's an assumption as well, she'll still be released from prison and still have a good portion of her life still ahead of her. And that, I think, to some does not feel like justice in exchange for 2 lives. I think I heard the mother of the defendant refer to Davion as a new friend. And I don't know what the value of the life of a new friend is. It seemed like there was some diminution there because 2 lives were taken. These are 2 young people who never got a chance to really start their lives after high school. That means there are no weddings for them, no college graduations, no children, no grandchildren, no large, monumental markers in their life that they will ever celebrate. Their families will always be frozen in time at the point in which they lost their loved ones. And that, to me, again, there should be a high price for that. We're talking 2 lives after all, but we're also talking about a defendant who at the time is 17 years old, very immature, has, as I understand it, no prior criminal record, lacks full brain development, extremely irresponsible, and not even as much remorseful as I think she should have been or could have been. I don't even know if she remembered that or acknowledged that there was a second victim in the vehicle. That is really, that's thunderstriking when you think about the fact that 2 families laid a loved one to rest. And after 15 or 20 years, this young lady may very well be at the local pharmacy with everyone else and sharing the community.
She could be in her 30s. Don,
yeah.
Your thoughts. You're in the courtrooms every day. Was justice served here?
Vinnie, I have honestly a hard time with a life sentence at all. I mean, we have to remember in Ohio, the statistics for someone getting out at their first appearance before the parole board on a life sentence are somewhere around 5 to 7%. So we've heard it before. She's not going to get out in all likelihood when she reaches the parole board at 15 years. She's more likely to serve 20 or more years. And we all agree, and we all have said here, she was 17 years old at the time, not a fully developed human being, not a fully developed adult. She couldn't vote. She couldn't buy a pack of cigarettes. She couldn't sign a contract. She's a child. Now, she made some horrible, horrible decisions, and she should pay for those. But Vinnie, if you think, who were you at 17? And who are you at 25? Those are 2 literally different human beings. So her capacity to redeem herself. Her capacity to rehabilitate is different than someone who goes in at the age of 25 or 35. Throwing away her life on a life sentence to me doesn't make any sense. And I think there should be some accounting for her being 17 at the time. We're one of the only civilized societies that sentences minors, children, to life sentences.
Judge, when we look at the prospects of getting out, the way it goes usually with these parole hearings is the family gets reminded each time, and eventually she's going to get out. It's always a difficult moment for the family. That's what I don't like about this. I don't like the parole system, period. Just give sentences of what you want to give, right? But that's not the law in Ohio. It is in some other states. Are you in agreement? You think that she absolutely will be denied first time around, but then have an opportunity maybe in 20 years?
I genuinely, given my experience with prosecuting cases at this level, and also my unabashed penchant for my favorite movie in the whole world, The Shawshank Redemption, I think she's going to end up much like, Red, played by Morgan Freeman, who appears before a parole board multiple times, and she may not, and in all likelihood, she will not be granted parole at her first request. That's going to require more than one appearance, more likely than not, before the parole board. So to my colleague's point, she's likely going to serve more than 15 years. And in all hopes, the judge has fashioned a sentence here that is not only punitive, but also one that allows for restoration.
Don, we have about a minute left here. Give us a little more insight into the parole system and what the standard is. Is it just the parole board giving their sort of gut reaction, or is there something that she has to demonstrate to get out?
Well, Vinnie, there are some statutory factors that the parole board must consider, but these are political appointees who make recommendations about whether someone should get out or not. They're going to look at her age at the time of the offense. They're going to look at the circumstances of the offense. They're going to look, most importantly, at her efforts to rehabilitate since she's been in custody. What has she done? Is she causing problems? Is she getting disciplined for fights, for drugs, for making whiskey, for doing the things that bad inmates do? If she's a model prisoner, if she has no infractions at all, and she's done everything right, she's probably still going to get flopped. So this is a flawed system. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Vinnie. It's wrong to turn over sentencing to a parole board that are these political appointees.
Let the judges do it.
Judges are the ones who should make that decision.
Absolutely. Don Malarcy, great to have you on the program. Great insight, all your experience. And of course, Judge Byers, always great to have you, my friend. All right, 15 years for 2 murders is absurd. And that's because the judge ran the sentences concurrently at the same time. You know what? To me, there's another way of saying that. Murder one person and get the second murder for free. It's an absolute insult to the victims to not have each of their lives count separately. The intent was clear. Let's just hope that the parole board provides a clearer sense of justice than I believe the judge did. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.